Hey everybody, Justin Boone from theScore. I want to talk to you about how the NFL schedule can basically be used as a weapon for fantasy owners because it's kind of already a cheat code for smart fantasy owners. And the problem most people make is they look too far ahead. So they look at week 14, 15, 16 in the fantasy playoffs. I get it, but it's very hard to predict what's going to happen that far in advance because there's going to be a lot of injuries, there's going to be roster turnover. It's a little more difficult. You need to look a little closer at maybe a 3 to 5 week window. That's what I like to look at. We kind of already know what defenses are now, and we can adjust accordingly with our rosters. So let's take a look at 3 players that I think you should try to acquire now, either via trade or go get them on the waiver wire if they're still available. And I think a couple of them might be. So let's start off with Jordan Howard of the Bears, and everybody freaked out when he only had 11 carries and 25 yards in a blowout for the Bears in week 4. That's the perfect game script. That's what we want from him. But here's the thing. Matt Nagy went into that game with a game plan to use the pass to beat the Bucs, and that's how you attack the Bucs. They are terrible at defending the pass, so they got Tariq Cohen more involved. The crazy thing is, I actually think if it wasn't a blowout, they probably wouldn't even have given Howard 11 carries. It probably would have been worse. But looking at his schedule coming up, and I know I said don't look too far in advance, but there are 11 weeks left in the fantasy season going to the end of the playoffs. He has a positive matchup on paper in 9 of them. A lot could change, but that's a pretty good start looking at it right now. If you're looking at that closer window, 5 weeks, in the next 5 weeks, 5 quality matchups for that running game. He gets to face teams like the Dolphins, the Bills, the Lions, all excellent matchups for him. His stock's gonna go way up. It's gonna happen soon. Make sure you go get him before it does. You have to. How about Andy Dalton? Dalton has played very well this year. I know people hate starting Andy Dalton. He's just not a sexy fantasy pick. No one wants to have him in their lineup, but Dalton's been pretty good. He's got multiple touchdown passes in 4 of 5 games this year. He's got 12 touchdown passes total, and his weapons are solid. AJ Green, we know he's great. Tyler Boyd's coming on. Joe Mixon is having a breakout year. He's an outstanding running back, and he's also a really good pass catcher. They've been lining him up out wide, giving him the ball in space. Let him do all the work, and then Dalton just gets to rack up the yards and the touchdowns. And Dalton's schedule coming up here is just fantastic. He gets the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Bucs. He goes on bye, comes back, it's the Saints. Those are 4 of the worst pass defenses in the league right now. Steelers are getting a little bit better with Joe Hayden back, but still, 4 of the worst. All great matchups for Dalton. You could start him confidently in fantasy over the next month or so. Normally we wouldn't say that, but this year, a little bit different. I think he's gonna have a good season, and I definitely think he's gonna have a good next month. The last guy, Ronald Jones. You're probably surprised to hear me say that name. I have spoken negatively about Ronald Jones in the offseason, in the preseason, and at the start of the season. I just don't think Jones is a very good football player, but opportunity is very important in fantasy, and no one has stepped up in that Bucs backfield. Peyton Barber's been terrible, Chris Rogers hasn't done much, and that passing game was solid early in the season, so you would think that running game should have an opportunity to do something. Their matchups are gonna get much, much better here. The next 9 games or so, they don't have a tough matchup until about week 14, week 15, and Jones, not a great talent, but he's a 2nd-round pick. The draft capital is there. They're gonna give him a chance. He's gonna have the opportunity, and maybe he could turn into something for fantasy. And his next matchup is against the Falcons, and the Falcons have allowed 90 yards from scrimmage to 4 straight running backs. It's possible Jones could become the 5th. I'm not suggesting you start him this week. Go out and get him. He's available in 71% of leagues. Throw him on your bench. Let's see what happens. He could turn into a fantasy asset. If you're looking for more fantasy content, make sure you're checking theScore app daily, and you can find me on Twitter @Justin Boone.